Hello world, my name is William Anderson, and I want to tell you about a court case where a nearly $500 billion company was found guilty of racial discrimination but went unpunished. A case that we as the world need to ensure it makes it before the United States Supreme Court, and I'm going to ask you to sign this petition to help it. My video is going to be brief, so I'm going to ask you to please listen to the end to fully understand what the legal system is doing to us. And you may be wondering, what does this have to do with you and why should you care? The heart of this issue goes way beyond my race discrimination case. I like to say it's impossible to know what you don't know. This is about what really happens in arbitration and why the survival of this case is important to you, regardless of your race. Arbitration agreements are attached to nearly everything these days, and most people have signed one and have been forced to give up their rights to a trial by their peers or to participate in a class action suit and don't even know it. Arbitration trials are considered private and not public. This is how they isolate you and keep you alone and voiceless as they violate and abuse you in the legal system. I retired from the military and went to work for AIG, a nearly $500 billion company. They are huge, and many of your jobs are connected to them, and you may not even know it. I've seen this company hurt all kinds of people, mostly blacks and women, and continually got away with it. And a time came where I filed a case against AIG, and only because of the evidence I was lucky enough to get a hold of before AIG could destroy it or hide it, AIG was found guilty of racial discrimination against me and two other highly qualified African Americans. AIG leadership created a scheme to allow one white male who was not qualified to get a management position by creating a sales contest which AIG leadership had manipulated so he could win. It was low down and dirty. I filed my case in federal court, but was forced to go through arbitration, as were many of you, and this is what you can expect. Throughout the whole process, the arbitrators allowed AIG to lie, withhold evidence, and hide documents that a normal court would have compelled them to produce. It was terrible. They helped AIG from start to finish, and only because of the little bit of critical evidence I managed to get prior to filing my case was the arbitrator forced to find AIG guilty of race discrimination. But the arbitrator intentionally violated laws to ensure this nearly $500 billion company was not punished. Think about that. We find you guilty, but we're going to let you get away with it. This is happening to people like you and me every day. Why this affects and hurts every nationality is this. And this is what you need to know. Unlike most judges, arbitrators don't have to follow all the basic rules of the law. You can only have their ruling vacated on appeal if you can prove misconduct, and they only have 4 misconduct laws that apply to them. The arbitrator in my case violated 2 of the laws, 5 different ways, all on record in order to allow AIG to get away without real punishment. The evidence of the arbitrator's misconduct was clear and overwhelming, so I decided to fight. I appealed to both the federal and then the 11th Circuit Appeals Court, and as you may guess, they both ignored the evidence and the written law to cover for the arbitrator. They made it so obvious, and this sweeping misconduct under the rug by our legal system happens all the time, and now my only option is the U.S. Supreme Court, asking them to uphold their very own laws and vacate this arbitrator. Listen, I believe this is pretty shocking. A prominent lawyer told me that in over 30 years in this field, he had never seen an arbitrator vacated for misconduct in 11th Circuit courts. He wasn't joking, because after hearing that, I hired several legal researchers to find just one case I could use as a reference during my appeal where an arbitrator was vacated for misconduct. One may exist, but we couldn't find it. If you ever need one, you probably won't find one among the thousands upon thousands of records to help you either. I believe everything happens for a reason. Look what's happening in the world right now. I believe this case now represents one of those reasons. If I succeed, this helps nearly everyone in the world except big business. Think about what I'm saying. If I've caught the arbitrator in misconduct, violating 2 of the statutes 5 different ways, all documented, and a case as strong as mine does not endure, what chance do you or another person have if you have a grievance with an organization or an issue with this COVID-19 virus and are forced into arbitration? What happens when so many are forced to go back to work and caught only 1 or 2 misconduct violations by an arbitrator who goes on to rule against them to protect the employer? What happens when you appeal to vacate and can't find a case with legal precedence to help you get justice. This type of injustice is happening all the time and can happen to you too, and many families will suffer terrible losses at the hands of arbitrators in the years to come. The world needs a case on the books that their lawyers can reference. Arbitrators need to know the spotlight is on them and the legal system's cover-ups are exposed, and they have to rule justly for the people. They've been getting away with it long enough. Again, for all of us, regardless of race, this case must endure before the Supreme Court, and without a huge public outcry, they will gladly reject and bury this case without even reading it, and the arbitrators and AIG will be free to continue their discriminatory practices. I'm asking you to please sign the online petition asking the United States Supreme Court to accept this case, and then share the petition on your social media and forward it personally to some people you know, especially if any of them are advocates against legal injustice. Please help me, which ultimately may help all of us. Let's make our voices one voice for justice. Thank you, and as we continue this fight against injustice, please pray for me and my family, and may God bless you. Don't forget to check out the link explaining why forced arbitration hurts you. And also, please take a look at the note at the end of my message. You might find it pretty interesting. Let's do this.